What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by Ashlee Simpson, and this album is called Autobiography, and it came out in the summer of 2004. Now, basically, Ashlee Simpson is Jessica Simpson's sister, so they're both pretty, highly touted models, and like, especially nowadays, but especially kind of in the early 2000s. Uh, Jessica Simpson was part of the Newlyweds back in 2002, 2003, and Ashlee Simpson got her own show also on the mid early 2000s MTV Days with the Ashlee Simpson Show. So during that time, she made an album, and this is kind of the project that she was working on when she was kind of more in her MTV years and such. But it's definitely a pretty stellar project. I've owned this album for quite a while, but I didn't get around to reviewing it. But I wanted to finally review it and such, just to kind of get some of these cranked out and kind of see what's up with it. But I do at least remember a couple of the singles. I very lightly remember Shadow, and I remember Pieces of Me being a large smash throughout the summer and spring of 2004. And I also remember like Ashlee Simpson caught a lot of flack in the fall of 2004 for apparently lip syncing her performance on Saturday Night Live. She just really, that continued to be something that folks chastised her for and overall things like that. But I do think this project is rather stellar, and I kind of question as to why she dealt with so much flack as far as that kind of went, because there is a lot of strong moments on here that maybe, I mean, I remember her saying at the time that her voice was sore or something like that. She just had kind of lost her voice, something of that context. But I just kind of look after it just to be able to say that there is some quality on here, and it is kind of a different pitch. I lightly remember Jessica Simpson, a couple of her albums that was kind of more pop. I remember maybe at least her 2001 album lightly, but I kind of want to say that this project is very much similar to Kelly Clarkson, Avril Lavigne, kind of the more pop but still kind of commercial alternative in a lot of ways type stuff. I just would have to say songs like Pieces of Me seem ripped right out of an Avril Lavigne album, and songs like that are just kind of similar. La La is very similar to something Kelly Clarkson would do, so it's just kind of that same context where she's kind of like a more scream queen kind of diva this time around. But I actually don't have a problem with that. You can tell just by the album cover that Ashlee Simpson, although she was a blonde, she kind of has black hair on this album cover. It's just kind of like, it's kind of the context where I don't want to full blown say it's a full blown emo project, but it does definitely have its moodiness, and that's kind of the context. It's not to say that it's not emo, and I would see it as kind of like a kind of highlight for alternative, but it just is kind of, it is commercial in a sense, and it's just kind of, it was aiming for a different valve, kind of the same stuff. I would have to say she's a little bit more like poppy and bubblegum than Avril Lavigne, and she's also a little bit more commercial and like more willing to kind of be sociable than Kelly Clarkson. So I just kind of feel like that's kind of what I've noticed about the situation. It's not to say that Kelly Clarkson's not social, but it just seems that she kind of has like some gab type things to kind of have on this project. This is kind of the thing. But so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the singles. So the first single was Pieces of Me. Now this was if you knew about the MTV show back in the day from that, I'd seen a couple episodes of it or something like that. But I would have to say, if you had Pieces of Me is the first single, if you had seen a couple episodes of like the Ashlee Simpson show from back in the day, I would have to say this song was pretty central about that format. It kind of dealt with that sort of process. But I would have to say this is very malaised and kind of commercial pop, but just kind of in an alternative sense. Like I said, this felt like ripped right out of Avril Lavigne's playbook, and I would have to say it just kind of has like the kind of glittery, kind of hazy autumn type feel, something like that. I mean, I could see it being summer, but maybe not June or May or that type pitch. I just feel like it's a lot more just August, September, October kind of vibes about it. It just kind of has, I mean, even though the lyrics are kind of saying that Ashlee Simpson is actually quite astute and kind of vibey on the song, it just kind of really, the production gives me off more of like a moody, kind of like sultry and just kind of overall hazy kind of feel towards it more overall. And I just would have to say it's perfect kind of pitch for like autumn romance and that type of stuff. Just would have to say it works in that sort of sense. Really, it feels pretty similar to Complicated and songs like that, and My Happy Ending, some of those type songs. This is kind of a nice commercial piece of work. It's pretty much the largest single off this album and charted extremely high, and pretty much in some cases tried to make Ashlee Simpson a one-hit wonder. Now I admit that there was not a song quite as massively hooky and overall quite as commercial and chart heavy as this song, but I would have to say that that's kind of a misnomer to say it's a one-hit wonder. But Shadow was the second single. Now I didn't really enjoy this song. This is a really kind of sullen and just overall. I mean the production, the pitch of Shadow changes pretty drastically from Pieces of Me, even though they're both kind of gloomy and moody kind of songs. I feel like Shadow actually has like a different pitch in the lyrics, where at least Ashlee Simpson was happy on Pieces of Me, but this one kind of is more just dealing with like the struggles of fame and that type of stuff, and supposedly Jessica Simpson being larger. But I just would have to say I look after it. I mean, I didn't vibe with this song just because it was a more glum one, but it's just kind of in like a commercial kind of sense. But I just think it was the wrong energy. I felt like since the world was introduced to Ashlee Simpson this quickly, I think she really needed to turn the energy up on the second single rather than turn the energy down. Now, this happened to a lot of pop singers back in like the 2000s as I was growing up and such. I remember a lot of these type ones that would get like a large hit and then they would turn the energy instantly, and every single person damn near in like, not every single but a lot of folks in pop and R&B kind of fell prey to having like the jivey kind of first single and then the second single that's like down tempo and really kind of halts and just overall stops the energy of like the pace of the album, and it just really screwed with the flow of that. And this is an example of how that happened. I think it just really kind of cut off the tempo that Ashlee Simpson was going for. Now, it's important to be able to have different moods. I think that was the contrast of just being able to go from a sunny day type song, to a rainy day type song. But I kind of felt like the pitch of how that happened was just not effective enough. Shadow just didn't quite have the hookiness that it needed. But La La is the third single, and this is one that reminds me of Kelly Clarkson. This is one that I do enjoy, and it's another highlight. I don't see it quite as large. It didn't chart. It charted worse than Pieces of Me and Shadow, but I would have liked this one. But I kind of feel like this was not the appropriate energy for a single either. I mean, at least not. I think it probably would have worked as the third single if the second single had hit. I think it would have been a strong 3 for 3 hit combination. But this one is kind of the sort of stuff that Kelly Clarkson was doing. It's a real karaoke and kind of dance club kind of song. This is about the most jivey that Ashlee Simpson really gets on here. This is a lot more of a personal album, and it doesn't really step out quite as much. Doesn't have as many jivey and kind of more like stepping out social kind of moments. But I do kind of feel like this is an example of that. But it I mean, it is hooky. I mean, I do feel like it's hooky, but for some reason, I feel like the production was maybe, it just felt kind of similar to the stuff that Pink was doing. And I kind of question, like, I think Ashlee Simpson kind of needed something. It's kind of just like a stark contrast from what she was going for with Pieces of Me and Shadow. And I think maybe, like, with the Pink and Kelly Clarkson type vibes on here, it just didn't. I mean, it was a very effective. I think this is probably the second best or so song on the album, even though I don't know if Pieces of Me is my favorite, but it's definitely a good one. These are both great songs, but um, it's kind of tough to describe as to why this song didn't really chart that heavily. I just kind of, I don't know. Maybe it was just the combination of the backlash she got from Saturday Night Live, and maybe it was just kind of the production. I think she really needed something that was kind of similar to like the stuff Avril Lavigne was doing, because I think that was kind of the pitch of it. I mean, it's difficult to describe. I could probably talk about this for another 6 or 7 minutes, but for what it was, I kind of look after it, and I would have to say that I think she needed another moody song. It just kind of was, these two gloomy ones and then kind of switching it. But, that's just personal opinion. That's just in my opinion, thinking of the concept. But I do think all three of the singles at least had some degree of value, even though I wasn't vibing with Shadow at all. I just kind of look after it like I think she just needed that secondary hit to kind of round out the project and kind of give her a 1-2 punch that this album just didn't have. And then when it showed up with La La, I mean, that would have been a great third or fourth single, but it just didn't have the right arrangement for how it happened. But I think that's really what, Ashlee Simpson needed most on this project. I mean, we'll talk about the album here, but I think the quality of it just kind of deals with that kind of it needed like another Avril Lavigne sized hit. It just needed something like Pieces of Me, but then was kind of a different pitch and maybe a little bit more jivey about it. That's kind of the thing. So to talk about this album, I'm going to recommend the 7 songs out of 12 I recommend to you. So those 7 songs would be Autobiography, Pieces of Me, La La, Better Off, Love Me for Me, Surrender, and Nothing New. So basically, the songs that I would recommend if you're really hip to like the Pieces of Me kind of alternative pop rock kind of vibe, I feel like songs like Better Off and Nothing New are kind of like that. Better Off is the most pop oriented. This is the closest one to like the sort of hazy kind of. Better Off is the closest thing to like the Kelly Clarkson and Rihanna type vibes of just like that malaise kind of makeshift kind of work a day type feel, something for the car, just got off of work, or just kind of even out, just got out of class, standard kind of vibes of just after school and after work kind of vibes, 3, 4 o'clock in the evening, just that kind of context, just very day commute kind of context. I feel like Nothing New is another one like that, even though this one's a little bit more Nothing New with the kind of post grunge type guitars on there really feels like another kind of just work a day kind of after work kind of vibe, 3, 4, 5 p.m. type stuff. It's kind of interesting kind of get some of these. This is kind of an approachable album in that sort of sense. It's very much of like the day commute, but then it also, I mean, like I said, this is a personal album, so it just doesn't have like I said, this is a personal album, so it doesn't quite have the overall jivey moments, but I will talk about at least 3 of those. I feel like Autobiography was one that I really felt like there were at least 3 moments off of this project that had kind of some more jivey and kind of stepping out kind of feels. Like Autobiography really feels like a 6, 7, 8 o'clock p.m. getting ready to go out for the night and kind of have some fun kind of vibe. Just has like that kind of pace it and kind of like enthralling, kind of gives you goosebumps kind of guitar type feel of it. Just the kind of energy where you're getting ready to have some fun tonight type feel. Definitely liked Autobiography, the title track. I also like Love Me for Me, which is another similar one to La La. So basically, La La, Autobiography, and Love Me for Me are kind of the ones that kind of have a more recreational vibe kind of about it. And it's good to kind of get these, but I don't know. I kind of like the concept of getting like the moodiness of Pieces of Me with like the energy of La La. I think that's probably something that could have happened. Not to overtly complain. I do like the concept of it. Maybe I'm just nitpicking too much, but I just kind of look after it like, so that's 3 songs. So basically, Pieces of Me, Better Off, and Nothing New are kind of the ones that are more work a day and just kind of day commute, work commute, school commute type stuff. And then there's another song on here I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, Surrender. Surrender is definitely one that kind of Surrender is kind of an in-between song where it kind of gives me the same excitable energy of Autobiography, but then it also kind of has like some of that kind of malaise and this overall day commute kind of vibe of like Better Off and Nothing New. So it's just kind of one of those ones that's kind of just a nice pitch just for the concept of being a little bit interchangeable and kind of having that vibe. So some of these just really do have like a nice energy of like kind of like evening kind of feels. This is kind of more of an evening album, I've noticed, more so than like a morning or night album. I think that's just kind of the concept. It's more, to me, it seems like between like 2 o'clock, 2:30, and about 6:30, 7:30. Just kind of the sort of moments of kind of congratulative about getting done with work and school and kind of getting ready to get started, but it just doesn't have many songs that really are in the pitch of the night for you when you're actually there. It's just kind of a transactionary project that kind of deals with like the vibes of just being in between music that you listen to in like the cars, you're getting ready to go there, or you're getting excited, getting ready to get home, change clothes, that type stuff, and just overall kind of have like some vibes as far as what's getting ready to happen. But it just doesn't, I mean, it's not to say I'm complaining about like it's going to get a rank score or a kind of wretched score or something like that, but that's kind of the pitch, is it this is kind of a transactionary project. So I'm going to talk about some of the songs I didn't enjoy. Like there are some kind of like glittery and starry-eyed and kind of like down tempo kind of moments, like Undiscovered, Giving It All Away. I felt like there was kind of like some grunge like sluggishness of Unreachable. That one just really kind of felt like a kind of sultry kind of song, but just kind of in like a real sluggish and kind of drawling kind of manner. That was kind of an odd one. And like I said, I didn't like Shadow that much because the energy was just too malaise and not compelling enough. And Love Makes the World Go Round is one that's similar to Better Off and Nothing New, kind of with that pop rock kind of contemporary workaday type feel. But I didn't enjoy that one just because I didn't like the kind of little bit too dreamy kind of glissy, just a little bit too dreamy and glissiness of that sort of situation. But so yeah, to talk about this album, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna score this album me like in 7 songs out of 12. I'm gonna give it like a 6.5 out of 10. I think that's pretty good. There's definitely some good stellar moments. Like I said, this is a quite damn near incredible transactionary project that just kind of is the in between of just getting through some of the processes of responsibilities and getting to the point of getting ready to step out and do some of those things. It's got a lot of energy to kind of get you pepped and get through some of those moments as far as the excitability behind it, but it doesn't have an exuberant amount of moments when the situations actually happen. It's not quite the party album, but it's just kind of the transaction towards getting towards it. But I do like quite a bit on here. And I would say the social score as a result of that, I'll probably give the social score like a 5 out of 10 because it does a good example of getting you excited and kind of getting you goosebumps and getting you wanting to step out. But it's not quite all night and tomorrow kind of. It's not a 2 o'clock in the morning album. It's not a 10 o'clock at night album. That's just kind of the concept. Like I do like La La, but it just doesn't have enough energy to carry throughout the whole night and that sort of thing. And the only other song that comes close to La La's energy is just Love Me for Me. So it's just kind of light on that, but it's just kind of presentable, workaday, and contemporary pop in that sort of sense, pop rock. So in terms of the future, Ashlee Simpson has kind of been vacant since about 2008. She did have a series of albums. I do want to review more of these. This is kind of the concept there, just to kind of say. But this is a pretty, actually above decent project that has some gems on there that should give you like some chills as far as how kind of excitable it gets you and such.